He walked into a bar and simply vanished. Cameras saw him enter, but no one ever saw him leave. To this day, no one knows what happened to Brian Shaffer. Brian Shaffer was a 27-year-old medical student at Ohio State University. Smart, ambitious, and known for his easygoing personality, Brian seemed to have everything going for him. He was in his second year of medical school and had plans to go on a spring break trip to Miami with his girlfriend Alexis. Friends say he loved music, and he dreamed of starting a band one day, inspired by his love for Pearl Jam. But beneath his cheerful exterior, Brian was still grieving. Just 3 weeks earlier, his mother, Renee, had passed away after a long battle with cancer. According to friends, Brian was devastated by her death. His father, Randy Shaffer, later said Brian had been trying to stay strong, but he wasn't sure how his son was really coping. On Friday, March 31st, 2006, Brian decided to take a break from studying and go out for a drink. He met up with his friend Clint Florence for a night on the town in Columbus, Ohio. The two hit several bars in the South Campus Gateway area before making their way to the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a popular bar on the second floor of a small entertainment complex. They arrived around 1:15 a.m. Surveillance footage captured Brian, Clint, and a mutual friend riding the escalator up to the bar. Inside, Brian appeared to be in good spirits. He called Alexis around 10 p.m. earlier that night, telling her he loved her and couldn't wait for their Miami trip. There was nothing unusual in his voice. No one could have predicted that this would be the last night anyone would see Brian Shaffer. Throughout the night, Brian was seen chatting and having drinks with friends. Around 1:55 a.m., near closing time, he was captured on camera briefly stepping outside the main entrance of the bar, speaking to two women near the escalator. After a short conversation, he walked back inside. And then, nothing. The bar closed at 2 a.m. Clint and the others assumed Brian had either gone home or left with someone he knew. They tried calling him later, but he didn't answer. The next day, Brian missed several calls from both Clint and Alexis. When he didn't show up for their planned trip to Miami on Monday, panic set in. His father reported him missing. Police quickly pulled surveillance footage from the Ugly Tuna Saloona. The footage was chilling. It showed Brian entering the bar, but never leaving. This was no ordinary bar. The Ugly Tuna had only one main entrance, which doubled as the exit, and it was covered by security cameras. Officers watched the footage over and over. Every customer who entered was seen leaving, except Brian. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Detectives considered the possibility that Brian had changed clothes and slipped out with another group of people. But after reviewing every frame, there was no sign of him. They checked the service exits and back hallways, but the only other exit led into a construction site, which was unsafe and filled with debris. Still, even that exit was covered by cameras from other nearby businesses, and none showed Brian leaving. Search teams scoured every inch of the building. They searched nearby dumpsters, alleys, and even storm drains. Cadaver dogs were brought in but found no trace of human remains. Police also examined the area's security footage from surrounding streets. Again, nothing. Brian had simply disappeared. The case drew widespread media attention. How could someone vanish from a busy bar in a city full of cameras? Detectives began to question everyone who had seen Brian that night. Clint Florence, his friend and last known companion, quickly became a person of interest, not because of direct evidence, but because of his behavior. Clint hired an attorney almost immediately and refused to take a polygraph test. His attorney said Clint had nothing to hide, but his silence fueled speculation. Brian's girlfriend, Alexis, was devastated. She called his phone repeatedly in the days after his disappearance. And then, something eerie happened. On September 8, 2006, months after Brian vanished, his phone rang. Alexis froze. She called back, but there was no answer. Phone company records suggested the call might have been a glitch, known as a phantom ring, which can happen when a phone's battery is low or being moved between towers. But for Alexis, it felt like a sign that Brian was still out there. Investigators explored multiple theories. 1. Foul play inside the bar. Some believe Brian was attacked inside the building and his body somehow hidden, but searches found nothing. And how could anyone have removed a body from a building surrounded by cameras? 2. Voluntary disappearance. Others speculate that Brian left on his own, possibly overwhelmed by his mother's death and the pressures of medical school. He was a big fan of the band Pearl Jam, and some wonder if he ran off to start a new life following a dream of music. But Brian's credit cards, bank accounts, and cell phone have shown no activity since that night. 3. A tragic accident. Could he have left through the construction site and fallen somewhere? Authorities searched extensively and found no evidence of this. Moreover, all construction areas were checked early on. As years passed, the mystery only deepened. Brian's father, Randy, spent years searching for answers, organizing searches and speaking to the press. Tragically, Randy himself died in 2008 after being struck by a falling tree, never knowing what happened to his son. The case remains open to this day. In 2021, police released an age-progressed photo of what Brian might look like in his 40s, hoping someone might recognize him. Despite hundreds of tips, no credible evidence has surfaced. For many, the case of Brian Shaffer is haunting because it's like a modern-day magic trick. A man walks into a bar and is never seen again. What do you think happened to Brian Shaffer? Was it foul play, an accident, or did he choose to disappear? If you found this mystery intriguing, please hit the like button and subscribe to Unsolved Mysteries Archive for more real cases that remain unsolved to this day.